I never thought a quiet Tuesday afternoon would turn into the most unforgettable day of our lives. My name is Rachel Thompson. I've been married to my husband, David, for nearly 15 years. Our lives, though filled with the usual ups and downs, have always been rooted in love, patience, and the routines that came with raising two kids and managing our careers. David is a high school history teacher, kind, patient, and thoughtful. He's the sort of man who remembers anniversaries, never forgets to fill up the car with gas, and brings home flowers just because. I'm a nurse working night shifts at a local hospital, often juggling between motherhood and the chaotic demands of patient care. Life for us had settled into a comfortable rhythm, perhaps too comfortable. That afternoon, David had just returned from work and was grading some papers in the living room. I had come home early from a shift that ended at noon, and our two kids, Abby and Noah, were at a friend's house. I remember the smell of the coffee I had brewed, the soft hum of the ceiling fan above, and the peaceful silence that filled the house. Then the doorbell rang. We weren't expecting anyone, and since our neighborhood didn't get many unexpected visitors, I instinctively looked through the peephole. A woman stood there, probably in her late 20s. She had deep brown eyes, a hint of nervousness in her expression, and held a small envelope in her hand. Curious, I opened the door. "Hi, can I help you?" I asked. She hesitated. Is David Thompson home?" I froze for a second. "Yes, he's inside. Who should I say is asking?" She bit her lip and lowered her eyes. "My name is Claire. I really need to talk to him. Please." Something in her voice struck me, an urgency that was hard to ignore. I motioned for her to come in. David looked up from the couch, surprised to see a guest. "Honey, this is Claire," I said, trying to keep my voice even. David's face paled the moment he saw her. He stood up slowly, papers falling from his lap, his eyes wide and fixed on hers. "Claire," he whispered. She nodded, her hands shaking as she held out the envelope. "I think you're my father." I think time stopped. I stood there, unable to process what I had just heard. My husband, equally stunned, looked like someone had knocked the air out of him. He took a step toward her, but said nothing at first. What do you mean?" he asked, barely audible. Claire's voice cracked as she spoke. "My mom's name was Lauren McCarthy. She passed away 2 months ago. Before she died, she told me she had a relationship with a man named David Thompson back in college. She never told you she was pregnant." David staggered back, sinking into the couch. I stood frozen. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. I felt like the floor beneath me had vanished. David buried his face in his hands. "Lauren. I remember her. We dated for a few months sophomore year. She transferred out and I never heard from her again." Claire took a shaky breath and continued. "She didn't tell anyone about the pregnancy. Raised me alone. But before she passed, she told me everything and gave me this letter. She said I had the right to know where I came from." David took the envelope from her trembling hands and opened it slowly. I watched his eyes scan the words, and tears welled up. His voice cracked as he read aloud a portion. "David, if Claire finds you after I'm gone, please know I never told you, because I was scared. You were kind, and I didn't want to burden you when I left college. But she deserves to know the truth." He wiped his eyes and looked at Claire. "I had no idea. I swear to you, I didn't know." "I believe you," Claire said softly. "I just needed to meet you. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to know who my father was." The silence that followed was heavy. My emotions swirled. Shock, sadness, confusion. But more than anything, I felt for the young woman standing before us. I looked at David, searching for signs of denial or anger. But instead, I saw pain and remorse. I walked over and gently placed my hand on his shoulder. He looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. "Rachel, I never knew." "I know," I said quietly. We offered Claire something to drink and sat down with her. For the next 2 hours, we listened as she told us her story, about growing up with a single mom who worked 2 jobs, about the journals Lauren kept, and how she had tracked David down after finding his name and an old photo in one of them. She had no siblings, no extended family left. She had come not for money, not for pity, but for truth. I watched David absorb everything, and something shifted in me. As unexpected and shocking as this was, it was clear Claire had come from a place of deep longing, not malice. The next few weeks were emotional. David and Claire met for coffee a few times, slowly building something between them. He invited her to dinner, and we introduced her to our kids, explaining the situation in simple, careful words. Abby, our curious 10-year-old, was fascinated by the idea of having a big sister. Noah, at 13, was more reserved but respectful. I'd be lying if I said it was easy for me. I had to come to terms with this new presence in our lives. At first, I felt threatened. What if this changed everything? But I saw David try harder than ever to make me feel loved and included. He held me every night, whispered his gratitude, and always reassured me I was still his partner, his best friend. One day, a few months later, Claire invited us to an art exhibit. She was an artist, something we hadn't known. Her paintings were abstract but emotional, filled with vibrant colors and broken shapes that somehow fit together. One piece, in particular, caught my attention. It was titled Reunion. It showed two hands reaching out, a child's silhouette between them, and a soft glow connecting them all. "This is about you and Dad," she said quietly to David. "And you too, Rachel. You opened the door. You gave me a chance." I hugged her that night for the first time without hesitation. It wasn't the life I imagined, but it became a better one. We didn't lose anything, we gained someone. The moment that left David in shock that Tuesday afternoon had opened a door to healing, connection, and love. What started as an unexpected knock became the beginning of a new chapter, one we never saw coming but now couldn't imagine life without.